watching famous games on YouTube.
Well, that is the closing bell as we finish another lovely day in the markets. And what a day it was. Really amazing comeback rally from the open. Coming into the open today, we had we were on the lows like many people. I woke up at like 2 in the morning to check out what the futures were doing, and stuff was way down. Personally, I came in today with no position, so it wasn't the hugest deal for me, but I was still curious as to what was going on. And if we just quickly go back and take a look at the price action before the open today, I can recap this with you once again. So here, this actually shows it right here. So here's Sunday night. We were down a little Sunday night. I think it was down like 30 in the E-minis, the Dow down like 300. We got to this low here, 29.23, and you chart people will tell me, what's up, advanced trader? How's it going, buddy? You chart people will tell me what significance this level has, but either way, as we came to the open, we rallied. Boom, and then once we had rallied back, it seemed like 3,000 was a magnet, and that but once we rallied back, you can see this last little woof up here. This is on the news of the Fed announcing that they will be adding more candy. They will be buying corporate bonds or the groups of corporate bonds to help support companies moving forward. So that was, and I was watching this or listening to this option block show on Option Insider Radio right when this was happening, and you just saw the whole market just kind of jumped on this news. Also, I want to welcome back traders to the S&P 500. The SIBO reopened its doors. Jay Swiss channel made 150 today. All right, nice to hear people making money. SIBO reopened its doors as traders came back. Now, we've talked a little bit about this, but the most kind of significant thing about that in this day and age of everything being electronic is there are certain trades that are kind of complex trades that you really can't quote over a computer system. It's just not set up that way, that you need the pit for. And thus, it's believed that bringing back the pits adds liquidity to the whole situation because you can engage in those complex trades, and also it just creates deeper markets. It's like when people are actually standing on a trading floor, if they kind of feel obligated to trade to some extent, and they're not just going to turn off their computer and walk away when stuff gets rough. So we like seeing the pits back in action. I do have a somewhat not so great picture, but I do want to thank Mark Sebastian for posting this picture of the pit at the SIBO for the SPX. Let me see, why am I having such a hard time here with this? Let's see. Let me try it for a third time here to post that. So there's that picture, and let me get out of the way, and you can see it there, I think. Yeah, it's just a little blurry, but it just shows some guys standing there. I guess they kind of sectioned off into different sections the pit. And like each broker had their own little section, and they employed some social distancing rules around the pits at the SIBO. So kind of exciting to have the guys back down in the pit. Remember that's where I came from a long time ago. Ooh, I'm in ghost mode here. All right, so another thing, I saw this amazing story. You guys got to check this out. This is slightly off topic, but if we do pull up Drudge Report, there's a story about some eBay employees who like got mad because these eBay employees got mad because someone had a newsletter that was like talking trash against eBay, and so they did this like crazy, like they went after these people in Natick, Massachusetts, and and all these eBay executives like personally attack these people, and they did all the things that you think of when you're with your friends when you're a little kid about how to attack people, like send a subscription to Playboy magazine to their house, or they told all these people that they were swingers and come show up at their house at any time. These people mailed pornography to the neighbor's house with these people's name on it to embarrass them. I'll get a link to this, but just an amazing story coming out of Natick, Massachusetts about eBay employees, pretty high up executives, I guess, who were arrested for basically completely harassing these people out of nowhere. Because the people said something bad about eBay business, and so they took it upon themselves. Here's the story here. eBay employees' harassment includes sending the couple disturbing deliveries, including a bloody pig mask, a box of live cockroaches, and a funeral wreath. They allegedly traveled to Massachusetts to conduct covert surveillance of the victims. Anyway, so here's the story. I was just really enthralled when I saw this. And so I will leave a link down below so you can check it out. Anyway, so where do we stand? Well, we're up right now, and positive day. It really doesn't feel like this is all over, though. As we look moving forward, it just feels like we're in a volatile situation, which happened to make us go up today. Doesn't feel like... I think people really want to feel like we're going to go right back into that rally every day mode, and that we're just going to go right back into that mode that we were in for like a month. But I really feel like we've switched gears here, and it's a different market than that market was. And so I would caution people about just thinking that like, oh, we're just going to turn around and it's going to rally back, and then we're going to take out the highs and we're going to be right back in rally mode. I think I would caution against that. It was disturbing yesterday. I was talking on Twitter to a lot of people, and I was surprised by, I guess, a lot of people in like, say, like Arizona, Texas, some of those southern places just don't. Like if you go out in public, people just aren't wearing masks. I was thinking that because where I live in Massachusetts, like when you go outside, like pretty much everyone's wearing masks. Everyone you see is wearing a mask pretty much. If you go to the supermarket, whatnot. And I thought that it was just the press that was saying that people like in like Arizona or Texas or whatnot are not wearing masks. But people on Twitter were saying, no, you go outside and nobody's wearing a mask, and people are not encouraged to like social distance or participate in any of these things. And that's just really unfortunate because it feels like Americans are just failing at this whole social distancing thing, and you can divide it by, how about this? I can divide it. I can blame each party. The Democrats could be blamed for being, seen at least as a big part of the protesters going on and not using social distancing for protesting. Republicans could be blamed for, straight from the top, obviously the president having disdain for wearing a mask and whatnot, and Republican governors discouraging people from social distancing and wearing masks and talking about fake news. This, it doesn't matter which party you're in, people are not taking this seriously, and I just find it ridiculous how people are saying like, I'm sick and tired of this, it's been long enough, I'm going to go outside and I don't care. And that's just not... that's not the way it is. If there's a disease out there and you got to protect yourself, or a virus, then you got to protect yourself until it's not there anymore. So, it is inconvenient to wear a mask. I don't like it any more than anybody else does, but I do it. And I thought everybody else did, but I guess a lot of people in America still aren't doing that. So hopefully this isn't as bad as they thought it was, and we're going to get through this. In the meantime, please, even if you think it's stupid, put the silly mask on. It's not that big of a deal. All right. So personally, my positions, I came in with nothing on this morning, and I've for whatever reason, the stars have been aligning for me recently, and I can do no wrong trading lately. So came in this morning, and I immediately at like the high of VXX for the day bought a bunch of VXX put spreads. Then pretty much on the low of VXX for the day, I covered some of it. I covered some of it by just selling out a similar spread, and I covered some of it by just selling. I sold some front week put spreads against some of my positions. So essentially, if we look at the day here in VXX, and I'm not going to spend a long time on this, but if we look at the day on VXX here, I essentially got short at the top here, and then I covered here and got just slightly long, like long. I was short like 400 deltas here, and then here I got long like 50 deltas by selling premium. So collecting decay like 150 a day, selling premium, and just flattened out, and so no real risk. So pretty much the risk is off right now. I'm short a slightly bit of premium right here, but that's it. So just I've been on fire lately, and everything I do is right, and I know it won't last, so I'm just trying to make as much money while it does last and be really careful about stuff. I've basically been day trading VXX the last 3 sessions is what I've been doing. But I do believe that it is a good idea if you are so inclined to put some sort of short on long term in VXX or UVXY, because we are kind of in an elevated level here, and it is going to roll lower sooner or later. That's for sure. We almost went back into contango today. We were briefly back in contango. Let's take a quick look at the VIX term structure here before I let you go, because I know you're busy. You got other stuff to do. So it can be a little bit confusing because different people have a different definition of contango sometimes. For me, it's all about the first 2 futures, and reason for that is these are the futures that calculate in the prices of our ETPs, our UVXY, VXX, and whatnot. So I realized that, look, we have a downwardly sloping curve. So overall, we are like in backwardation. However, the only 2 futures that really matter for the calculation are slightly in contango. Now this is just a minor percent in contango. So you can see front month future 34, 64, second month future 34, I can't even read it, 90. So this is just 0.075% in contango, but still the edges is this is decaying to the downside. So that's pretty cool. That we are gonna, it looks like officially closed in contango today, so pretty amazing. But yeah, I do think it's a good idea to put a long-term short on in VXX or UVXY. Personally, like I said, I've been kind of day trading this stuff because we've had so much movement around, and it's been working out well. It was great over the weekend to have no position because I didn't have to stress too much. But anyway, that's where we are. And pretty much I went out with nothing again today. Got some great views on the last video. I know people are more interested in checking out financial stuff when stuff is going kind of wacko, which it has been lately. So definitely appreciate people coming on and checking out my content. We're going to have to see what happens, but it does not feel like we are, like this is like over with and that we're just going to go back to rally mode here. But, what do I know? Your guess is really as good as mine when all is said and done here. VVIX still very elevated, was down almost 10 today. 141 is where we went out in VVIX. That's a very elevated level still. And it's just shocking to me that Tesla almost 1,000 again. Hertz kind of rallied a little bit today. I would think if the company, when they see the price go up like this, which is it's extremely unusual for a company that is going bankrupt to have their stock rally the way Hertz has, not necessarily this session, but recently. And so I would think that they would try, what they will try to do with this is they will try to issue debt based on this higher price of the stock to try to get themselves out of trouble. If they can actually sell enough debt with the stock at a higher price, then they can actually get themselves out of trouble. So it's kind of like a balancing act and a race here, but a really fascinating story going down in HTZ. I don't know if you folks are familiar with Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School, you do these case studies to, that's kind of the whole school is doing case studies. And I'm certain that this Hertz will be a case study at some point because it's a fascinating story as far as something that talks about bankruptcy and then it rallies. People bought it hand and fist, and all the news stories that came out saying, well, this is, retail that doesn't know what they're doing buying this, and the professionals all fading it, and then it still isn't zero. It's still up higher, way higher than it kind of came from. So just an amazing story. I encourage you to read more about it and check it out. I'm not going to go into it in more detail today, but it's a fascinating story. So that's where we are. I would just keep in mind that when we're moving around like this, a great thing to do is to leg into having some premium. If you own options when stuff is moving around like this, it really does, you really are in the driver's seat. And obviously, volatility can come in quickly, stuff can move one direction or another quickly, but if you can be selective about what you buy, if you can leg into owning some calls or some puts, they can work in this environment where stuff is just moving all around. I mean, just the whipping around we saw just toward the end of the day is just evidence that we are in a unique situation. I mean, just before I let you go here, this is just VXX like in the last hour, and we saw it, down here 37.50 all the way to 39 and back to 37, almost even, and that was like within 1 hour, and that's pretty volatile. I mean, a lot of times you'll get like some one-way action, but having that like two-way volatility is pretty extreme. And the same thing with just the general markets. I mean, each day is like exciting now. I mean, the markets are raging around, and these are opportunities to trade and make money. So hopefully you folks are making some money. I wish everybody the best, and I hope you survive this and prosper. And anyone that wants more specific information from me or wants to ask me something specifically, feel free to reach out. Let's take a look at the chat before we leave here. ZM just hit an all-time high. Yes, Zoom. Zoom is like the stock of the shutdown, right? It's like everybody, I mean, I know I'm not the only one that had never used Zoom before everything shut down, right? Does VXX generally does go up, J-Swiss, when the market goes down. That's due to the fact that people get nervous as the market goes down. It's essentially due to the fact that when market goes down, big fund managers, they don't want to sell out the stocks in their portfolio because they still want to get the dividend even if stuff goes down. So what they do instead is they hedge themselves. They go into the S&P 500 and they buy put options. And when people buy put options, it makes the VIX go higher. And when the VIX goes higher, VIX futures go up, and thus VXX goes up. So that's kind of like the story of why VXX goes up when the market goes down. But generally, yes, it does. Now, VXX can go up when the market goes up too, but generally, when people are buying options in the S&P 500, VXX goes up because that makes the VIX go up, and VIX futures. Remember, VXX and UVXY are based on VIX futures, not the VIX. So we want to make that distinction, and we want to follow what the VIX futures are doing, which very often is very similar to what the actual VIX is doing, but it's not the same thing. Wall Street saying analysts are predicting that investors have more cash to pile in high growth techs Do you think that Sony is a good stock medium long term? I don't have any comment on Sony, J Swiss. I don't know. People think COVID is a scam. I realize that. And truth be told, COVID has not been as dangerous as they initially thought. Initially, they thought like 20 million people were going to die, and that hasn't been the case. Thank goodness. That doesn't mean that it's not dangerous, and it doesn't mean that it hasn't killed people, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm off my soapbox. Like I said, I don't want this to be like a political thing, like this party's doing this or that party's doing that. Everybody can do a better job with this in America, as far as I'm concerned. Cool. All right. Thanks for watching. Please sign up for Patreon. Sign up for a membership to the channel. It's only $2 for a membership to the channel. Come on, you cheapos. You got $2, don't you? and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Best of luck.
You're watching Famous Days.
Bye-bye.